My next guest studies these trends. Please welcome to the show, Keith Fitz-Gerald. Keith, thank you for taking the time to come on. Always enjoy your input. I think the consumer's got a right to be nervous. What do you think?
Oh, I think the consumers not only got a right to be nervous, Scott. I mean, anybody who's not paying attention at this point in time.
I'm laughing at myself, yeah.
Oh my goodness! Anybody who's not paying attention at this time is either living under a rock somewhere or works for the Fed, which has a reality distortion vortex. So, I think it's going to be cat on a roof time, hot tin roof at that, because I think these numbers are low. I think what we're feeling in our wallet is 13, 14, 15, 30, 60%, depending on what commodity, medicine, food, gasoline you're talking about.
So I'm obviously in your camp, but every time I get in a debate about what might be around the corner, the folks that are probably a little bit more happier than I am, or at least say not as doom and gloomish as I may be, they keep throwing in my face the 11 million open jobs and 3.6% unemployment. What's your retort to that? I mean, those things can change on a dime.
Well, bully for them, because the workforce has gone down. It's one of the smallest in history. People have voluntarily left, so they're not being counted. We've got open jobs because people don't want them. That's the problem. This isn't a sign of a strong economy. So the Fed, once again, is measuring the wrong data. People who are latching onto it are reading it incorrectly. The job market is nowhere near as hot as everybody thinks it is. The reason why wages are climbing is because they have to attract people in the first place who don't otherwise want to be there. So, this is just a bug in search of a windshield as far as I'm concerned. The data that the Fed uses and all the economists use is A, academic, B, busted, and C, reflects the last century, not the technology-driven world we live in today.
I think you're the first guest we've had on that maybe explain that pretty well. They are measuring jobs that nobody wants, right? And That's got to change, because that is fundamentally not going to give you a good idea or a good snapshot or picture of what's actually happening out there. And I have anecdotal evidence, like I'm sure you do and a lot of your friends do, where you've got, say, 25 to 45-year-olds that keep telling me there are no jobs. I apply over and over and over again, and nobody calls you back. That's the thing I hear. I don't hear about 11 million open positions and a 3.6% unemployment rate.
Well, that brings up a whole nother issue, right? Is we've become a nation of burger flippers and service workers and healthcare providers, which is a function of how we age, what we eat, and the way our economy works. Now, there's no dig against any of those careers because they're all awesome as far as I'm concerned. But the problem is the data, because the data does not reflect the technology-driven world we live in. We have money, and money is mobile. This is what the government boffins inside the Beltway just cannot seem to grasp. The fact that an attorney can pick up and go from Los Angeles to Lawrence, Kansas, get a real estate that's a fraction of the cost of what they pay in Los Angeles, and yet continue working at even a higher wage or billable hour count isn't reflected in the data. So when we have open jobs, it's stuff that's related to fulfillment that's going to be replaced by robotics. It's stuff that's not mobile because it has to be in a specific place. It's not a coincidence that Amazon is looking at distribution centers everywhere because they're running out of people to work. They've got to move it. They've got to get around the country. They've got to do it. And other companies are the same. So if you can protect margins, that's the stuff that's going to be a great investment. That's the stuff we want to focus on. If you can't, you know what? You're going to have lots of job openings. I'm sorry.
And that'll just continue to be the case. They got to stop measuring that number. It's now starting to become meaningless. But something that's not meaningless, to change the subject, CPI, PPI, Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. I mean, we've got some things coming up here in the last half of the week. What are your thoughts on how those things are going to shape up?
Well, I'd love to be able to tell you that I know exactly what they're going to be, but I haven't broken out my magic 8-ball yet today.
Right.
So I think the numbers are going to come in hot. I think the government numbers are more cooked than a Christmas goose. So frankly, I've stopped paying attention to them, because the people I focus on are the people who are standing next to me in the grocery store lines, the people who are talking about the jobs that they can't get or the jobs that they just got, the way housing prices are working. It's stuff that we see with our eyes every single day. And what that tells me is the numbers are going to come in hot, they're going to come in heavy, and they're going to come in hard. And so as far as that concerns, I'm going to be watching my neighbors, because the longer they're talking about it, that's the signal I want to focus on as an investor and as an armchair economist.
All right, so just to make it clear to the viewers, we've got some inflation numbers coming this week, and I'm asking Keith, CPI, Consumer Price Index, Producer Price Index, of PPI. And we've also got some reads on how comfortable the consumer is, and they're not, is the answer. And so With those inflation
Exactly.
numbers, are we worried now, Keith? I am, but I don't know about you. Are you worried that the Fed's going to overshoot and take this opportunity to be the big shot in a small room?
Again, I don't mean to make light of the situation, Scott, but the Fed has already caused the next 3 crises. What do you mean overshoot?
Right.
They missed the last one. They missed the last 5. They're going to miss this. I mean, the Fed is like a pendulum that is out of control. It's going to swing from one end of the extreme to the other. They don't understand active management. They couldn't negotiate rates out of a wet paper bag if they had to. So my confidence is not very high in what the Fed has to say. I'm going to continue to knuckle down, focus on my neighbors, focus on our community, because that's the real indicator. What you're feeling on your wallet is the thing you want to watch. So these numbers, dare I say it, are darn near irrelevant, Scott. They're going to get worse, and that's going to roil markets.
And it'll roil the markets. We've got inflation worries coming through already. I think that's why we've seen crude off $8.
Yep.
We're facing a slowdown here, folks, and that's the bottom line. It's just how slow the Fed makes it, and it looks like they probably will add to the slowness. All right. I really appreciate you coming on, Keith. Great stuff. Keith Fitz-Gerald. He's coming to us from Seattle. Really appreciate you being on the show today. Here's a look at the equity market.